Good evening. Welcome to the Wyoming Planning Commission for Tuesday, September 17th, 2025. Rose, please call the roll.
Commissioner Gilreath Watts.
Present.
Hall.
Here.
Lamer.
Here.
LaPlaca.
Here.
Randall.
Here.
Weller.
Here.
Zapata.
Here. And if I could have a motion to excuse Alex and Dave this evening, please. Cherie, second by Roger. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve last month's minutes, please?
So moved.
Chris, thank you. Second? Robert? Any discussion, changes, edits to the minutes? Not seeing any, we'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, approval of the agenda. Any changes to this evening's agenda?
No.
Thank you very much. With that, the agenda stands. It is now time for public comment. This public comment period is reserved for comment on non-public hearing items only. It is important to note that this is not an opportunity for dialogue or debate, but an opportunity to provide comment to the Planning Commission. Upon approaching the podium, please begin by providing your name and address. There's a 3-minute time limit per person. Seeing none, we will close public comment. All right, Rose, please read agenda item number 1.
Request for site plan approval at 2300 Newstead Ave Southwest, Section 11, Pioneer Park Apartments, LDHA LLC.
Great. Colton?
Good evening, Commissioners. Make sure this is on. Good evening. So I'm here to present our first agenda item of the night. This comes from Pioneer Park Apartments, and this is at 2300 Newstead Ave Southwest. So before going into it, this is a site plan review that we've done. I'll show where we're at exactly. This is an R4 zoned parcel, which is one of our residential districts. I will note that this allows for single, 2, and multiple family dwelling units. That'll come into play in just a minute, as I'm sure you can already tell. Where this is located is just northeast of where we are currently, adjacent to some things like the City Center Trail Network, Pioneer Park, and not far from a lot of city services and city buildings. So one thing I would like to point out is this site is essentially broken out into 2 different parts. It's got access from Newstead Avenue on the south and Michael Avenue on the north side. And we will focus on that northern portion. So as I mentioned before, multiple family dwellings are principal permitted use in the R4 residential district. This northern portion currently has the 4 townhome buildings that you see right now that makes up about 20 units. That is proposed to be demolished to make space for one 37-unit apartment building. So this is the main change that's happening on site. They're doing some renovations to that lower unit. It's a larger apartment building. It houses about 105 units on the southern portion of the site. But as far as the site plan is concerned, this really just impacts that northern portion of the site. So this includes 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, as I'll show in just a second. And then one thing to note that's pretty unique about this project is that all features on the site are proposed to be accessible. So that includes things like the dumpster that you might not necessarily think about, but it also has a pavilion, bicycle parking, as well as networks connecting the sidewalks to that southern portion and throughout the public park system. So with that, you can see the site elevation right here showing kind of an aerial image of really what the building should look like. These are all preliminary drawings, not necessarily for construction just yet, but this gives an idea of the floor plan. You can see that 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom units and the square footage that's proposed for each one. And the building itself is a 3-story building, as you can see. That reaches about 35 feet in height. So with that, I'll jump into findings of fact. The first one, which pertains to adequacy of information, the site plan that you have in your packets does contain all the information that we have as far as code requirements. So that meets this standard. As for the building itself, this does adhere to the R4 setbacks. It does meet the minimum land requirements that we have in our R4 development standards, as well as the maximum building height at 35 feet. Moving on to privacy, this is the one condition that relates to planning that you'll note in your packets, that screening is required in the R4 district at a minimum of 3 feet in height. Planning staff would like to work with the applicant to find something suitable, whether that's berming or a fence to shield the parking lot areas, which is what the code requirement specifies, the parking lot areas from headlight traffic and headlight spillage onto other properties. As far as natural areas are concerned, this project does include a fair amount of landscaping that does meet our requirements. One thing that's pretty unique about this property is that originally it was built out in 1979. Since then, they've maintained a lot of the tree canopy and a lot of the vegetation on site. So we're excited to see that that will continue to be the case, even though they're doing some demolition and constructing a new building. A lot of that canopy is maintained. As far as drainage is concerned, the city's engineering department doesn't have any major concerns. They're willing to work with the candidate and the applicant through the process of getting all the approvals that are necessary to meet stormwater management. The same is true for soil erosion. The city's engineering office has confirmed that appropriate measures are provided for this project. Moving on to ingress and egress. This is provided, like I mentioned, from the north off Michael Avenue. There is pedestrian accessibility throughout the property that could connect to that Newstead Avenue, but there's no motor vehicle access. The access is limited to just that Michael Avenue entrance. That being said, there's plenty of space once you get onto the site. The parking lot is actually being expanded, so it allows for maneuverability within the site, as well as entering and exiting the site. So this also meets our requirement. For emergency vehicle access, you'll also note conditions that are very typical of redevelopment, fire lane signage, and Knox box. Besides that, there's no issues with the fire marshal and what his requirements are for this project. As far as vehicular circulation is concerned, as I mentioned before, there's adequate access and ingress and egress onto the property and off the property. I will also mention that the drive aisles and the parking spaces meet our code requirements. And then as for pedestrian circulation, that's one of those more unique aspects of this site, is that everything is accessible, which does meet the type of residence that they do have. I'll touch on that in just a little bit. But there's access that connects to our public infrastructure when it comes to sidewalks that allows for pedestrian mobility throughout the site, like I mentioned before. And one unique thing is the City Center Trail Network, like I mentioned before, does connect just on the north side across Belfield Avenue once you get out of Michael. So all this does meet pedestrian circulation within the site, but it's an added benefit that it's also good off the site as well. For traffic impact, we don't expect any adverse impact. The jump from 20 to 37 units for this portion of the property doesn't raise any red flags as it concerns traffic. What we typically see is that infrastructure has been developed to the point where staff does not have any concerns and wouldn't require a traffic study. As for public services, it's currently served by public services. You'll note one of the conditions under engineering is actually a small modification of a water main easement. Again, very typical and expected when you're moving buildings and just changing the overall landscape of an area. Site redevelopment, our final finding of fact is site improvement provisions. These will all be met through the development process. So with that, I'll talk about the future land use, which is noted as traditional residential. This includes single-family detached, single-family attached, and multifamily development. The master plan does place a lot of stock on infill development and recommends that that's a course of action that's consistently taken, and increasing housing choice in Wyoming. And I'll expand on that right now as far as the type of building and what this is. So this development as a whole, actually, if you'll remember from a few months ago when I presented on different types of economic development tools that we can use, this actually has just been awarded a pilot through our city council yesterday. So this is a project that serves primarily elderly and disabled individuals. In most cases, I think a quarter of the percentage of residents that are currently living there fall under this category. Low income is definitely a consideration for this, and so they're pursuing the LIHTC program, which is the low income housing tax credit program through the state. And as a part of that, a pilot is required. So that's something that just relates to this development. It is pursuing housing choice in Wyoming and maintaining it for the future as well. So with that, this does meet the requirements and the vision really of our master plan. So with that, the development review team recommends the Planning Commission grant site plan approval for the project at 2300 Newstead Avenue Southwest, subject to conditions 1 through 3. I'm available if anyone has any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Colton. Would the developer or owner like to come up and make any comments? Please state your name, address, and you've got 10 minutes.
Hi, my name is Kyle Olstar. I'm the architect that's working with the developer on the project. I'm from Concept Design Studio, 800 East Ellis, Norton Shores, Michigan. And we work on a lot of LIHTC related developments. The developer himself couldn't be here. He's not, he's out of state. So I thought that the presentation was hit everything. And if there are any questions as it relates to the development or architecture, I can try to help on that end. Or the civil engineer is also here that put together a lot of information for the site plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so we have a request for site plan approval at 2300 Newstead Avenue Southwest, Pinery Park Apartments. Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion. Chris, thank you. And a second? Rob? Thank you. All right, questions, discussion, comments? Yeah, Chris.
Architect Kyle, is there? It looks like there's a walkway connecting the old complex to the two complexes together, but it looks like that's got cut off on the site plan. Is that going to be reconnected?
It will be reconnected. Part of the intent that the developer wants to create with this overall site plan is to tie the two developments together with some of those site amenities, the pavilion, the outdoor seating area, and the floor plan. The community center for this specific building is located on that southern corner. That way, if there was some activities that each building could, congregate at, then that would be accessible to each.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Audrey?
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious what's going to happen with the residents that are there in the meantime while they're going to be displaced while this is being built, if we know.
So I can address that. So we have talked with the developer about that, and those who are being displaced will have temporary housing while the construction is taking place.
Thank you for that. Follow-up question then, because a lot of the residents there are either elderly or disabled, and obviously this is a 3-story complex, is there adequate ADA accommodations to house the people that are there to be placed in this new building?
The existing building on the southern portion of the site, from my understanding, is senior, and then this building is supposed to be family.
Okay.
And that doesn't necessarily that there's means that there's an increase of people that need accessible measures or services. I think the code minimum, can't recall off the top of my head. Either way, this building will target 10% of apartment will be type A accessible, fully barrier free. All other apartments will be type B accessible, barrier free, meaning that they are convertible if need be in the future. So accessibility is an important factor in the overall design, as well as the accessible spaces. So if 10% accessible units on a 37, we would have 4 accessible parking spaces rather than probably the 2 minimum that would be required. So those kind of translate to each other. And then all apartments will be visitable with an elevator on the inside of the building. So there's no step to the entries, and 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms are currently planned to have a half bath off the living room, so that way there's an accessible, well, there's a bathroom, may or may not be accessible, but there's a bathroom that is accessed off the main space rather than having to go through a bedroom. As well as accessible restrooms on the first floor, and the community space will be. So, yeah, 10% of the apartments in this building itself will be accessible. Type A.
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Any other questions or comments? Sheree?
I have a question. Maybe this is more for management. When the people are returning, the elderly and the low income, will they be able to afford this facility after the construction has been completed? I don't know if that's something you can answer.
I can actually address that.
Okay.
So because this is a LIHTC project, a low income housing tax credit project, there are actually income restrictions. And then those income restrictions are actually driven by the rental rate.
Okay.
This property actually has a pretty complex financing structure. The property itself is actually serving about more than 50% of the population, no, more than 60%, 65, thank you, sorry, it's been a long day. 65% of the population makes under $25,000 a year.
Okay.
And so there are already
Subsidies.
there are already caps built in, which
Got
will
it.
continue as part of with this new
Perfect.
project.
That's what I needed to know. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. I just have one comment, and that is just an appreciation for trying to maintain as much of the old growth tree canopy as possible. I do appreciate that, since oftentimes we see old growth cleared and just new plantings in place. So thank you for prioritizing maintaining old growth in that area as much as possible. Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. We've gone through discussion. Rose, please call the vote.
Commissioner Gilreath Lutz.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Lamer.
Yes.
LaPlaca.
Yes.
Randall.
Yes.
Weller.
Yes.
Spada.
Yes.
All right, motion is approved. Thank you. Rose, please read agenda item number 2.
Learning and growth.
All right, thank you. So this evening, our learning and growth is a presentation from the Grand Valley Metro Council on the West Michigan Healthy Climate Plan. So I'd like to bring forward Damaris Potter for this presentation. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me, Wendy. So my name is Damaris Potter. I'm a climate action planner for the Grand Valley Metro Council, and I'm here to present on the West Michigan Healthy Climate Plan. Don't know how this works, if I go through the slides or, okay. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so this is a project that we've been working on for the past 2 years, and we are now in our public comment phase. So for the month of September and the first week of October, I'm going around giving presentations, and we're going to be facilitating feedback through our survey that we have online. You'll be able to find the website at the end of the presentation, and we can connect at the end as well. So, like I said, I'm from the Grand Valley Metro Council. We are a regional planning organization that services most of Kent and Ottawa counties. We are a coalition of municipalities, and we also have members from the surrounding counties as well, like in Greenville, Middleville. And the purpose of our organization is to support the growth and development of these municipalities through giving technical and governmental resources. We have 3 departments as well, and I'm in our environmental programs department. So today, I just want to give you guys the context of what this plan is, really dive into the contents of the plan, and then usually I would have a breakout session when I give this presentation to more community-based organizations to have a more interactive activity. But I'll dive right into it. So for context, we, in 2023, received $1 million from the Environmental Protection Agency to do this West Michigan Healthy Climate Plan. It was through the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant, which was also granted to 47 states, 81 metropolitan areas, and 94 tribes. And we are one of 3 grantees in the state of Michigan to receive this project. This grant was has 3 objectives that it's given us, including to create good paying jobs, to accelerate environmental justice, and to reduce harmful emissions and pollutions. So this kind of just gives us a wider scope so we can see what's being done on the national level. Like I said, we were one of 3 grantees, and the state of Michigan has also received this money to complete their Michigan Healthy Climate Plan, which was first released in 2022. And it is made up of these 6 important pillars. Again, similar to the national scope, they are committing to environmental justice, trying to accelerate good paying jobs, and protecting things like our land and our water. It also has goals like reducing harmful greenhouse gas emissions by 52% in 2030 and hopefully 100% by 2050. So these are some of the goals that we are basing our West Michigan Healthy Climate Plan on. And this is where we come in, because in order for the state to achieve these goals, they're relying on regions like ours to do the work as well. So the West Michigan Healthy Climate Plan as a whole is really a roadmap. It's like a rubric of strategies and actions to mitigate and adapt to climate change. We have set short and long-term goals on how to do this and emission reduction targets as well. And like I said, we're aligning ourselves with the state, and we're working closely with the Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy Department to do this work as well. So there are 2 documents of this plan, 2 different phases that we did. The first one was called the Priority Climate Action Plan, which was submitted to the EPA in 2024. And now we are on the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan, which we will submit to the EPA by December 1st. This grant also extends to 2027 and gives us the money to do a status report, oversight for the next couple years on how this plan is being used and if these actions are being implemented. Through this phase, for the first phase, there are 2 key parts. We did a greenhouse gas inventory where we calculated and quantified a lot of where these emissions were coming from in the region. And the region is made up of Kent, Ottawa, Ionia, and Montcalm counties for this plan. We divided them into 4 sectors: transportation, energy, waste, and agriculture. And another key part of this phase was doing community engagement, where we held 4 community input sessions throughout 3 of the 4 counties. It was open to the public, open to experts in the field as well. And this is really where we heard those climate actions, policies, and programs that people deemed feasible and implementable in their region. We compiled all that information combined with what we found in the greenhouse gas inventory, and we found what we call reduction measures, which were those initial ideas, initial actions that are feasible, implementable to reach our short-term and long-term goals. This is the framework that we use for this first phase. Those reduction measures I talked about are at the top, and it's those initial ideas that we need to strive for to reach our goals. And then we found those actions that are happening in the region that would be able to do this. And so those numbers that you see as well are the reduction potentials. That is quantified in metric tons, carbon dioxide equivalent. So this is really the model that we use. And then I have a quick video. I'm not sure if it'll work here, but okay. Oh, nice. So for context, this video was made last year, and it just highlights a lot of the key points that are bringing us into the beginning of our second phase.
Earlier this year, in 2024, Caramita, GVMC, and the West Michigan community completed the Priority Climate Action Plan. Now we're moving into planning for the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan. We've gathered 4 technical working groups, one for agriculture, waste, transportation, and energy. In the first meeting, we brought forward every possible way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in West Michigan by 2050. Then the technical experts prioritized them based on implementation, feasibility, cost, and other indicators. In meeting number 2, we set sector-specific targets for every reduction measure we decided to move forward with. Now, in meeting 3 and for the rest of the year, we'll be developing out actions to help us achieve each of those reduction measures. In 2025, we'll be launching the Community Ambassador Program, which we hope you are willing to engage with, and I can't wait to see you there.
Climate action plan, when we're talking about,
This one. Thank you. All right. So again, that's kind of summarizing how we got to our community ambassador program. So this was the beginning of our second phase. It's really highlighted by the word comprehensive. Like the video said, this was the part where we called upon our technical experts, had focus groups, action planning teams, and then we also dove into a more comprehensive community engagement program. And so for this program, we paid around 15 ambassadors, $30 an hour to go out into the 4 counties, to go to in-person events, share on social media, connect with friends, and share out this community input survey that we created, which was, again, another way of meeting people where they're at, and especially prioritizing low-income and disadvantaged communities as we looked for more feedback on the first phase of the plan. We were able to engage with over 600 people through this phase, which is pretty impressive because it only went on for about a month and a week. And it was really exciting to see the engagement that we got. We also did a more comprehensive greenhouse gas inventory, which we would love to share with all the planning commissions in this region if we could. We based this on data from 2019 because it's pre-COVID data and also data that the state was using. And we found that stationary energy was the highest emitting sector. So emissions coming from buildings like these, manufacturing buildings, residential buildings. And we also found that transportation was a close second. Next was waste, and then agriculture, forestry, other land uses, and industrial processes and product use. This was its own document that also dove into subsectors as well in each of those 4 sectors that I mentioned earlier. And this is also provided on our website as well for people to really get a starting point for emission collection. And this is really the full scale of everything that we did in the second phase. And we are now into our public comment period. But I really just covered the greenhouse gas inventory in our community engagement section. There was a lot that went into it, and there's a lot that's gone into the past 2 years of doing this work. And now we are doing our due diligence by wanting to collect feedback once again on the work that we've been doing so far. And so this is where people like you come in. This is where our community members come in, especially when it comes to planning commissions. And as a regional planning organization, this is what we do, and we want to share as many resources as we can. And so, yeah, that's what brings me here. That's what brought me to an organization that Wendy's also a part of, and I've really just been diving into this a lot more, and I'm excited for the work that's going to come as well. So I did cover a lot, and I would love to hear any questions that you guys might have.
Let's see. I want to see if we've got any to start before I dive in. Roger, you look like you've got a question. No, you're good? Okay. Rob?
Yeah, I have a whole bunch. This is great stuff. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah.
I'll keep it to a minimum. I'm sorry. To help me understand your investigation into stationary energy. Is that built? You're talking about buildings. Is that operational?
Mhm.
Or okay, so not
Yes.
sunk cost into building, but into but just like in the operation and maintenance of those spaces.
Yes.
Understood. I guess that's the easy one. Yeah. How do people get involved? If, for the record, we wanted to say, like, if people are interested in participating in some way, what's the best way to get to you?
This slide.
That's fine.
Besides that, yeah, my contact information is there. I would say for now, we are getting more towards the end of our engagement period, since we are going to be submitting this to the government by December 1st, probably mid-November. I think what we really want to see now is local governments, planning commissions, community-based organizations take a look at the actions and our recommendations that we have in the full plan, and kind of workshop ways that we could uplift some programs that are already going on locally. A lot of this work is already being done, but it hasn't been really put into a document for 4 counties. So I think, at least for us, we want to help to uplift work that's already being done. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay, I'm wondering if you can go back several slides to where there were different objectives and then the kind of initiatives underneath. Yeah. I'm curious specifically, so Rob mentioned the structural or the built environment. How did the partnership with Corewell come about? And what does energy efficiency look like for an institution like that that has so many locations across this footprint?
Yeah, so I'm not sure how the initial contact was made, but I do know that one of the representatives was involved in very early advisory committees. I don't think they stayed long term on that committee, but for that action, it was a hypothetical of if Corewell were to transition to more energy efficient appliances, how many of their buildings would that have to apply to? So that's kind of where that reduction potential, that number above it comes from. So I can get more information on that too, and really find out how or who that person was too, and where that went.
Thank you. And then also looking at the reducing the production of waste, I know that you've got some a lot of detailed information about how waste is broken down into different categories. Can you maybe just give us a high level of what that kind of, what we can conceptualize when we think about waste overall, and what components of waste or what descriptors of waste are going into our landfills?
So for one, we really looked at organic waste. A lot of the reduction measures, reduction actions had to do with high-level composting, having contracts with places like Organicycle, and what if we had like a residential composting program? So it was looking on the residential side, that's one part. And then also having institutions having their own expanded food rescue network as a whole, which is kind of collecting that waste before it reaches the landfill. I guess it's mostly talking about organic waste, and then finding ways to reduce that before it even happens.
Great, thank you. All right, any other questions or comments? Yeah, Rob?
I thought of another one. In your experience in this area, what are the slides or levers that planning commissions have, right? We write ordinances and manage a municipal code. To affect change in this area, what are things that you've seen people do or municipalities do?
I think a lot of it has to do with zoning, particularly when it comes to expanding transportation as well. We also worked really closely with our transportation department on this. That would have more insight into it, but we are a federally mandated metropolitan area, and so with that comes a lot of it's kind of hard to put into words, but we don't have a lot of authority ourselves. And so leaning on planning commissions to at least have a conversation and be aware that there are plans out here that they can also use and reference to maybe adopt is partly our mission.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think if you just want to put your contact information back up on the screen for a moment, that would be great. And yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, of
Appreciate the
course. Thank you,
information.
guys.
And, I, of course, invite all of you to get in touch with Damaris to, scan the QR code and share the presentation with others that you may know in the community, and then get involved in the comment as well. All right. Next on our agenda is public comment. Before we go to that, I just want to take a moment for special acknowledgement, and I'm going to turn it over to Cherie.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to introduce two very, very special individuals that are in the audience. And those are my students, Ella Fisher and James Tebow, who are from Granville High School, and they are scholars at the high school. And I invited them to be here. They live in the area, and they decided to stop by and say hi and listen in. So, welcome.
Thank you very much for being here. Would either of you like to come up and say a few words?
Yes, they do.
You can come up together or separately.
You have to give your address and just say a quick hello.
Hello, I'm James Tebow. I live at 2505 Newstead Avenue.
Hello, I'm Ella Fisher. I don't know the numbers to my address, but I live on Mesa Court Southwest in Granville.
Great. Thank you. Anything that you would like to share about what you've learned or what you're taking away from this meeting? No pressure.
I think it was interesting to get some insight into what's happening in the area. Specifically the climate that you guys are talking about, the climate acts that you guys are working on, or that they are working on. I thought that was very intriguing, as that's something I'm interested in.
Thank you. All right, pressure's off. Go ahead and have a seat. Thank you very much. All right. Seeing no other folks in the audience, point of order, do I need to open up additional public comment? Are we good to go? Okay, closing public comment. Thank you. Commissioners, any other matters for this evening? Chris?
Being that we're American, I'm not familiar with royalty, but what do you call the mother of a king? The queen mother, is that right? Mm-hmm. We have royalty in our presence. I'd like to congratulate Audrey as being the mother of Wyoming High School's homecoming king.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Very exciting, very exciting.
Quite exciting.
That was last weekend?
Yeah, on Friday night.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. Very exciting. Congratulations. Thank you for sharing that, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Any other comments? All right. Thank you very much. With that, we're adjourned.
Great job.
Well done.